My name is Scarlett, I'm 28, and I thought my family loved me. Until the day I discovered they deliberately excluded me from my sister's Hawaiian wedding, not through oversight but through calculated deception. What started as a booking mistake unraveled into the most devastating family betrayal I'd ever experienced. But here's the thing about karma, it doesn't just knock on your door, it kicks it down. 1 year later, when my family needed me most, I served them the coldest dish of justice they'd ever tasted. Before we dive into this wild ride of family drama and sweet revenge, I need to know, where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments, and if you're ready for a story that'll have you questioning everything about family loyalty, smash that like button and hit subscribe, because this tale of betrayal and karma is about to get absolutely insane. Trust me, you won't see this twist coming. Growing up as the middle child in the Morrison family, I always believed we were unbreakable. My older sister Madison was the golden child, prom queen, valedictorian, the one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. My younger brother Tyler was the baby, charming and spoiled, who got away with everything. And me, I was the dependable one, the problem solver, the glue that held everyone together when things got messy. Our family had this tradition of Sunday dinners at Mom and Dad's house in suburban Denver. Every week without fail, we'd gather around the mahogany dining table that Dad inherited from his grandfather. Mom would cook her famous pot roast and we'd share stories about our week. These dinners were sacred to me, they represented everything I loved about our family bond. Madison had always been the star, but I genuinely celebrated her successes. When she graduated summa cum laude from Northwestern, I threw her a surprise party. When she landed her dream job at a prestigious marketing firm in Chicago, I was the first to congratulate her. When she met Derek, a successful architect with a trust fund and a smile that could charm anyone, I welcomed him into our family with open arms. Their relationship moved fast, maybe too fast, but love doesn't follow timelines, right? Within 18 months, Derek proposed during a romantic weekend in Napa Valley. Madison called me crying happy tears, and I cried with her. She asked me to be her maid of honor, and I felt like the luckiest sister in the world. The wedding planning consumed our family for months. Madison wanted everything to be perfect, and by perfect I mean expensive. They chose the Four Seasons Resort Maui as their venue, with a guest list of 150 people. The cost was astronomical, but Dad said nothing was too good for his princess. Mom spent hours on Pinterest creating mood boards and color schemes. As maid of honor, I threw myself into wedding duties. I organized the bachelorette party in Las Vegas, coordinated with vendors, helped Madison find the perfect dress during countless shopping trips. I spent my savings on a bridesmaid dress that cost more than my monthly rent, but I didn't mind. This was family. The guest accommodations were complicated since the wedding was destination style. Dad hired a travel coordinator to handle everyone's flights and hotel bookings. "Don't worry about anything, sweetheart," Dad told me during one of our Sunday dinners. "Sandra's handling all the travel arrangements. Just show up and look beautiful." I trusted him completely. Why wouldn't I? This was my father, the man who taught me to ride a bike, who walked me to school every day, until I was embarrassed to be seen with him, who cried at my college graduation. I had no reason to doubt that I was included in every plan. The weeks leading up to the wedding were hectic. Madison was stressed about last-minute details, snapping at everyone over minor issues. Mom was overwhelmed trying to coordinate with vendors from 3,000 miles away. Tyler was busy with his senior year of college and barely involved. I became the emotional support system for everyone, mediating fights, solving problems, keeping everyone calm. "I don't know what I'd do without you," Scar Madison told me one evening when we were addressing invitations. "You're the best sister anyone could ask for." Those words meant everything to me. They felt like validation that all my efforts, all my sacrifices, all my unwavering support mattered. I was loved. I was valued. I was an essential part of this family. 3 weeks before the wedding, I realized I hadn't received any travel confirmation emails. When I asked Dad about it, he seemed surprised. "Oh, Sandra must have sent everything to the wrong email address. Don't worry, I'll have her resend everything tomorrow." Tomorrow came and went. So did the day after. When I called Sandra directly, she seemed confused. "Mr. Morrison told me you were handling your own travel arrangements," she said. "I assumed you preferred to book independently since you travel so much for work." That was the first red flag, but I brushed it off. Dad was busy, Sandra was overwhelmed with details, miscommunications happen. I called Dad immediately. "There must be some confusion," he said, his voice slightly strained. "Let me look into this and get back to you." When I tried calling again, Mom answered and said Dad was in meetings all day. The wedding was now 2 weeks away, and flights to Maui were either sold out or astronomically expensive. I started to panic. This couldn't be happening. Not to me. Not for Madison's wedding. There had to be a solution. That's when I decided to drive to my parents' house unannounced. I needed to resolve this face to face, no more phone tag, no more confusion. I had to be at this wedding. Not just because I was the maid of honor, but because missing it would devastate Madison and destroy me. The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway, but I could see light coming from Dad's study. As I approached the front door, I heard voices, familiar voices, having what sounded like an intense conversation. Instead of ringing the doorbell, something made me walk around to the side of the house where Dad's study window was partially open. What I heard changed everything I believed about my family forever. "Are you sure this is the right thing to do?" Mom's voice carried through the window, thick with uncertainty. "It's already done, Patricia." Dad's voice was firm, colder than I'd ever heard it. "The guest list is final, accommodations are booked. There's no room for changes now." "But she's going to be devastated," Mom continued. "Scarlett has been so excited about this wedding. She's put her heart and soul into helping Madison. That's exactly the problem." This was Madison's voice, sharp and irritated. "She's been too involved. This is my wedding, not hers. I'm tired of her always trying to take center stage." My blood turned to ice. They were talking about me, about deliberately excluding me from the wedding. "Madison, honey, that's not fair," Mom protested weakly. "Scarlett has only been trying to help. Madison's laugh was bitter. "Mom, she's been suffocating me with her help. Every vendor meeting, every dress fitting, every decision she has an opinion. Derek's family keeps asking who the bride really is because she's so involved in everything." "She's your maid of honor," Mom said, but her voice lacked conviction. "That was a mistake," Madison replied coldly. "I should have asked Derek's sister Emma from the beginning. She understands boundaries. Scarlett doesn't." Dad cleared his throat. "The decision is made. We told Sandra not to book Scarlett's travel. She can't afford the last-minute flights now, so the problem resolves itself. Madison gets the wedding she wants, and we avoid a confrontation." "What do we tell her?" Mom asked. "That there was a booking error," Dad said matter-of-factly. "That by the time we discovered it, nothing was available. She'll be disappointed, but she'll get over it. Tyler will record everything on his phone." "This feels wrong," Mom whispered. "She's our daughter too. She's 28 years old, Patricia. She'll survive missing one family event. Madison only gets one wedding day. It should be exactly what she wants. You know what bothers me most?" Madison's voice had turned vicious. "She acts like she's so perfect, so selfless, always putting family first. But really, she just wants to be the center of attention. Did you see how she took over planning my bachelorette party? It was supposed to be about me, but somehow every conversation became about her coordinating this or her arranging that." "That's not true," Mom said quietly, but no one seemed to hear her. "And Derek agrees with me," Madison continued. "He says it's weird how possessive she is about our relationship. She texts him directly about wedding stuff instead of going through me. It's inappropriate. This was a lie. I had Derek's number because Madison had asked me to coordinate with him when she was overwhelmed. Every text had been about wedding logistics that Madison specifically requested I handle. I just want one day that's about me and Derek, Madison said, her voice taking on a whiny tone, without Scarlett orchestrating everything from behind the scenes. Is that too much to ask? Of course not, sweetheart, Dad said soothingly. Your wedding will be perfect, just the way you envisioned it. Tyler's voice joined the conversation. Apparently, he'd been there the whole time. Honestly, I think you're being too nice about it. Scarlett's always been jealous of Madison. Remember how weird she got when Madison started dating Derek? She kept asking all these personal questions about their relationship. Another lie. Madison had confided in me about Derek, shared her insecurities and fears. I had listened and offered support like any sister would. She's probably secretly happy that Madison's moving to Chicago, Tyler continued. Now she can be Mom and Dad's favorite. That's enough, Mom said, but her protest was weak. No, Tyler has a point, Madison said. Scarlett's always competed with me, even when we were kids. Remember how she tried to upstage my high school graduation by announcing she got into college that same day? This was the most twisted revision of history I'd ever heard. I had received my acceptance letter that morning and Mom had insisted I share the news at dinner. I had specifically asked if I should wait, not wanting to overshadow Madison's celebration, but everyone had encouraged me to announce it. She does have a tendency to make things about herself, Dad agreed. Remember her college graduation? She invited that boy she was dating without checking with us first. That was my boyfriend of 2 years, I whispered to myself in disbelief. They had all met Jake dozens of times. They had encouraged me to invite him. This is for the best, Dad concluded. Madison deserves her perfect day, and sometimes protecting one child means disappointing another. Scarlett will understand eventually. What if she doesn't forgive us? Mom asked. There was a long pause. Then that's her choice, Madison said finally. If she can't be happy for me just because she's not the center of attention for once, then maybe we're better off without that kind of negativity. I couldn't breathe. The family I had loved unconditionally, the family I had sacrificed for repeatedly, the family I thought I knew, they were strangers, worse than strangers. Strangers wouldn't have betrayed me this cruelly. I backed away from the window on shaking legs, my heart hammering so loudly I was sure they'd hear it. Every memory was recontextualizing itself in my mind. Every favor I'd done, every sacrifice I'd made, every time I'd put their needs before mine, had it all been taken for granted? Had they always seen me as a nuisance, an attention-seeking burden? The drive home was a blur of tears and rage. I sat in my apartment that night, staring at my bridesmaid dress hanging in the closet, and made a decision that would change everything. If my family wanted to exclude me, I'd give them exactly what they asked for. But I'd do it on my terms, not theirs. The next morning I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. Everything hurt: my head, my heart, my soul. But underneath the pain was something else, a cold, calculating anger that I'd never experienced before. I had two choices: confront them directly, or play their own game better than they ever could. I chose strategy over emotion. First, I called in sick to work. I needed time to think, to plan, to process what I'd learned. Then I sat down with my laptop and began researching everything about Madison's wedding that I wasn't supposed to know. The guest list was online. Madison had created a wedding website with all the details. As I scrolled through the names, I felt sick. Cousins I barely saw twice a year were invited. Derek's college roommate, who'd never even met our family, was invited. Even our elderly neighbor Mrs. Patterson, who Madison usually ignored, was invited. But not me. Not the sister who had spent countless hours helping plan this event. My phone rang. Madison's name lit up the screen. "Hey Scar, I just wanted to check in about your travel arrangements." Dad mentioned there might have been some confusion. Her voice was bright, cheerful, completely fake. She was following the script they'd agreed on. "Yeah, there seems to be an issue," I replied, keeping my voice carefully neutral. "Sandra says she never received instructions to book my travel." "Oh no. That's terrible. Let me call Dad right now and figure out what happened." The concern in her voice was Academy Award worthy. If I hadn't heard her real feelings the night before, I might have believed she was genuinely upset. "I already checked flights," I said. "Everything to Maui is either sold out or over $3,000. $3,000, Madison gasped. "Oh my God, Scarlett, I'm so sorry. This is awful. Let me see what we can do." "Maybe Derek's family has connections, don't worry about it," I interrupted. "I understand these things happen. I'm just disappointed I'll miss your big day." There was a pause. Are you okay? You sound different." "I'm fine. Just tired. Work's been crazy." "Okay, well, I'll figure something out. I promise." "You're my maid of honor. I can't get married without you there." Another lie. She'd already replaced me in her mind with Derek's sister. "I appreciate that, Madison. Really, but don't stress about it. Your wedding should be perfect, and I don't want this travel issue to overshadow anything." I was giving her exactly the out she wanted, and I could hear the relief in her voice. "You're the best sister ever, Scar. I love you so much." "Love you too." But I didn't. Not anymore. Love requires respect, and they'd shown me exactly how much respect they had for me. After we hung up, I spent the rest of the day calling every vendor involved in Madison's wedding. Not to sabotage anything, I'm not that petty, but to gather information. I had helped coordinate most of these relationships, so they all knew me and trusted me. From the florist, I learned that Madison had changed the bridal party flowers last minute, removing one bouquet from the order. From the photographer, I discovered that Derek's sister Emma was now listed as the maid of honor for photo purposes. From the caterer, I found out they had adjusted the head count down by one, citing a last-minute cancellation. Every vendor confirmed what I already knew: this wasn't a booking error. This was a deliberate, calculated plan to erase me from Madison's wedding day. You know what's crazy about family betrayal? It doesn't just break your heart, it rewires your entire brain. I'm sitting here a year later, still processing how the people who raised me to value loyalty could be so disloyal. But here's where this story gets really interesting, because what happened next changed everything. If you're feeling that pit in your stomach right now, imagining how you'd handle this situation, stick around. Because my family had no idea what they'd unleashed. That evening, Dad called. "Sweetheart, I'm so sorry about this travel mix-up. Sandra feels terrible about the confusion." "It's okay, Dad. These things happen. I've been making some calls trying to find alternative flights, maybe through a different airline." "Dad, really don't stress about it. I know how expensive last-minute travel is. I wouldn't want to burden anyone." The word burden hung in the air like a challenge. "You're not a burden, Scarlett. You're family." The irony was suffocating. "I know, Dad, but Madison deserves her perfect day without worrying about travel logistics." "You're being very understanding about this. I've learned a lot about family priorities lately." If he caught the double meaning, he didn't acknowledge it. Over the next week, I received sympathy calls from various relatives who had heard about my travel issues. Each conversation was a masterclass in acting as I played the role of the disappointed but understanding sister. "Such a shame you can't make it," Aunt Carol said. "But these destination weddings are so complicated." "Madison must be heartbroken," Cousin Jenny added during her call. "She is," I replied. "But she understands it's out of everyone's control." The lies came easily now. Maybe I was more like my family than I'd realized. 3 days before the wedding, Madison called one final time. Scar, I have an idea. What if Derek and I postpone the wedding? We could move it back a few months, have it somewhere local. Absolutely not, I said firmly. Madison, you've planned this for months. Everyone has already traveled to Hawaii. You can't postpone your wedding because of a booking error. But you're my sister, and as your sister, I'm telling you to have the most beautiful wedding day of your life. Take a million pictures, dance until dawn, and don't waste a single moment worrying about me. I don't deserve you, she whispered, and for just a moment she sounded like the sister I used to know. Yes, I agreed quietly. You don't. She didn't catch the meaning behind my words. The wedding weekend arrived. I spent Saturday at a spa getting a massage and a facial, treating myself to luxuries I rarely indulged in. That evening, while my family was dancing at Madison's reception in Paradise, I had dinner at the nicest restaurant in Denver, a bottle of wine, and a good book for company. Tyler posted photos on Instagram throughout the night. Madison looked radiant in her designer gown. Derek was handsome in his custom tuxedo. My parents beamed with pride. Derek's sister Emma stood beside Madison, in the maid of honor position that should have been mine, wearing the exact shade of blue I'd helped Madison pick out for the bridesmaids. I studied every photo, memorizing faces, noting who looked happy, who looked drunk, who looked like they were having the time of their lives at the wedding I'd helped plan but wasn't allowed to attend. That's when I began planning my revenge. The months following Madison's wedding were a masterclass in strategic patience. While my family returned from Hawaii with sun-kissed skin and thousands of photos, I embarked on a different kind of journey, one that would fundamentally change the dynamics of our family forever. First, I went completely no contact. Not dramatically, not with angry confrontations or ultimatums. I simply became unavailable. When they called, I didn't answer. When they texted, I responded days later with brief, polite messages. Sunday dinners became work conflicts or previous commitments. Birthday celebrations were missed due to sudden illnesses or travel. Scarlett's been so busy with work lately, I overheard Mom tell Aunt Carol during a phone call. She's barely had time for family. They had no idea that my absence was entirely intentional. During this period, I threw myself into personal growth with an intensity that surprised everyone who knew me. I enrolled in therapy to process the betrayal and learned valuable lessons about boundaries and self-worth. I joined a gym and hired a personal trainer, transforming my body and gaining physical confidence I'd never possessed. I took cooking classes, photography, workshops, and even started learning Spanish hobbies I'd always wanted to pursue but never had time for because I was too busy managing everyone else's needs. Most importantly, I focused on my career with laser precision. As a marketing director for a mid-sized tech company, I'd always been competent but not particularly ambitious. Now I became ruthless in my professional development. I networked aggressively, took on high-visibility projects, and made myself indispensable to upper management. My efforts paid off in ways I couldn't have imagined. 6 months after Madison's wedding, I was promoted to senior marketing director with a 40% salary increase. 8 months later, I was headhunted by a Fortune 500 company for a VP position that doubled my income and came with stock options worth more than Madison's entire wedding budget. But success wasn't just about money, it was about building the kind of life that would make my family's betrayal irrelevant. I bought a beautiful condo in downtown Denver with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the mountains. I traveled to places I'd only dreamed of: Paris, Tokyo, Iceland, posting carefully curated photos on social media that showcased a life of independence and adventure. The psychological transformation was even more significant than the external changes. The people-pleasing, family-obsessed Scarlett was gone, replaced by someone who knew her worth and refused to accept crumbs of affection disguised as love. Meanwhile, Madison's marriage began showing cracks almost immediately. Through mutual friends and carefully monitored social media, I watched their relationship deteriorate in real time. Derek, it turned out, had expensive tastes and a gambling problem he'd hidden during their engagement. Madison's pristine Instagram posts couldn't hide the tension in their photos or the increasingly frequent solo outings. Mom tried reaching out multiple times, her messages becoming more desperate as months passed. "Honey, we miss you at Sunday dinners. Dad made your favorite roast. Are you upset with us? You seem so distant lately. Scarlett, please call me. I'm worried about you." I responded sporadically, always politely but with emotional distance that must have been palpable even through text. "Sorry, Mom. Work has been intense. Maybe next month." "I'm fine, just busy building my career." "Everything's great, just focusing on personal growth." The beauty of this approach was its plausible deniability. I wasn't being cruel or confrontational, I was simply living my life without centering it around family obligations. To anyone observing from the outside, I looked like a successful young woman who had naturally grown apart from her family as she built her own life. But I was actually conducting an experiment in value. How much did my family actually miss my presence versus the services I provided? Would they reach out because they loved me or because they needed something from me? The answer became clear around month 9. Tyler called me directly, something he rarely did, asking for help with his college applications. He was struggling with his personal essays and knew I was good at writing. "I wouldn't ask, but you know how stressed Mom and Dad are about college costs," he said, "and Madison's been unavailable lately." I helped him, but I charged him. "I'm happy to edit your essays, Tyler, but I'm treating this as freelance work. My rate is $50 an hour." He was shocked. "Seriously, you want me to pay you? I'm a professional writer and editor now. This is what I do for a living." He paid grudgingly, and I delivered excellent work. But the transaction established a new precedent: my skills and time had value, and family didn't entitle anyone to free labor. Christmas was the ultimate test. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't attend Christmas dinner. Instead, I spent the holiday skiing in Vail, with friends from work, successful, ambitious people who understood that family should enhance your life, not drain it. The photos I posted from that trip showed me laughing, confident, surrounded by attractive, accomplished friends in a beautiful setting. It was a stark contrast to the strained family gathering I'd skipped, where Madison and Derek were barely speaking and Tyler was sulking about college rejections. "We missed you so much at Christmas," Mom texted the next day, along with a photo of my empty chair at their dining table. The manipulation was obvious, but it didn't work anymore. I'd learned to see these tactics for what they were: attempts to guilt me back into my old role as family caretaker and emotional support system. "Looks like you had a lovely time," I replied, along with my own photo of mountain peaks and blue skies. "I had an amazing Christmas too." By the time the 1-year anniversary of Madison's wedding approached, I had become everything I'd always had the potential to be but never prioritized. I was successful, independent, confident, and genuinely happy. I had also become patient, calculating, and utterly committed to teaching my family a lesson they would never forget. That's when Madison's marriage finally imploded and karma came knocking on my door with the sweetest opportunity for justice I could have imagined. Madison's text arrived on a Tuesday morning while I was in a board meeting presenting quarterly marketing results to our C-suite executives. "Scar, I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Please call me as soon as you can." I ignored it. Whatever crisis Madison was experiencing could wait until I finished demonstrating my professional excellence to the people who were considering me for another promotion. 3 hours later, my phone was buzzing with missed calls and increasingly frantic messages. "Please, Scarlett, I really need my sister right now." Derek left. "It's over. Everything's falling apart. I know we haven't talked much lately, but I need you." The desperation in her messages was palpable, but I felt nothing. No rush of sisterly concern, no instinct to drop everything and rescue her. The year of distance had immunized me against her manipulations. I called her back that evening after a successful client dinner where I'd closed a deal worth 7 figures to my company. Scarlett Madison's voice was raw from crying. "Thank God you called. I didn't know who else to turn to." Just packed his bags and moved out while I was at work. He said he can't handle the pressure of marriage, that he made a mistake, that we rushed into everything. I wasn't surprised. I'd seen this coming for months based on their social media behavior and gossip from mutual acquaintances. Derek had been staying out late, posting photos from bars and casinos, looking increasingly unhappy in couples photos. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, meaning it in the most clinical sense possible. "I don't know what to do, Scar. I'm drowning in debt from the wedding, the condo payments are impossible on just my salary, and I can't afford a divorce attorney. Mom and Dad are freaking out because they co-signed on our mortgage, and they're worried about their credit." There it was. The real reason for her call. Not because she missed me or valued our relationship, but because she needed someone to solve her problems. Just like always. "That sounds incredibly stressful," I replied, offering sympathy but no solutions. "I was wondering, could you maybe help me? You've always been so good at figuring things out, and I know your career has been going really well. Maybe you could loan me some money to get through this rough patch." The audacity was breathtaking. After a year of minimal contact, after deliberately excluding me from her wedding, after never once acknowledging the pain she'd caused, she wanted to use me as a financial bailout. "How much are you talking about?" I asked, curious about the scope of her desperation. "Maybe 20,000. I know it's a lot, but I'm desperate. I can pay you back once I get back on my feet." $20,000. The same amount I'd spent on my European vacation earlier that year, money I'd earned through my own hard work and smart career moves. "That is a lot of money," I agreed. "When would you need it?" "As soon as possible. Like this week if you could manage it." The timeline told me everything I needed to know about how dire her situation was. "Let me think about it," I said. "I'll get back to you." "Really, Scarlett, you're amazing." After we hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine and considered my options. This was the moment I'd been waiting for, the opportunity to demonstrate my value to my family in terms they couldn't ignore or dismiss. Over the next few days, I gathered more information through strategic conversations with my parents and Tyler. The picture that emerged was even worse than Madison had admitted. Derek hadn't just left, he'd emptied their joint savings account and maxed out their credit cards at various casinos around Chicago. Madison was facing foreclosure on their condo, default on wedding-related debt, and potential bankruptcy. My parents, who had co-signed on multiple loans to fund their perfect daughter's fairy tale wedding, were now liable for debts they couldn't afford. Tyler was also affected. With their savings depleted by Madison's crisis, my parents could no longer afford his senior year tuition at his expensive private college. He was facing the possibility of transferring to a state school or taking out massive student loans. The family that had excluded me so casually was now in free fall, and I was the only one with the resources to save them. Mom called me directly, something she rarely did anymore. "Honey, I know you and Madison have had some distance lately, but she really needs our help right now." "Our help?" I repeated. "Well, yes. As a family, we all need to come together during difficult times." "Interesting perspective, Mom. I seem to remember a time when I needed family support, and it wasn't available to me." There was silence on the other end. "Scarlett, if this is about the wedding travel situation, is it a situation now? I thought it was a booking error." "It was." There was genuine confusion with the travel coordinator, Mom. My voice cut through her excuses. "I know the truth." Another silence, longer this time. "What do you mean? I know you deliberately excluded me from Madison's wedding." "I know it wasn't a booking error. I know you all decided I was too involved, too attention-seeking, too burdensome to include in her special day." I could hear her breathing, but she said nothing. And now, when your perfect daughter's perfect life has fallen apart, you want to invoke family solidarity and ask for my help. Scarlett, I think you're misunderstanding. No, Mom. For the first time in my life, I'm understanding perfectly clearly. I hung up and blocked her number. Now, it was time to make my final move. The next morning, I woke up with absolute clarity about what I needed to do. This wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about justice, accountability, and teaching my family that actions have consequences. I called Madison back. Scar, I'm so glad you called. Have you thought about what we discussed? I have, and I'm prepared to help you. The relief in her voice was immediate. Really? Oh my God, thank you so much. I knew I could count on, but I have conditions, I interrupted. Of course, whatever you need. Payment plan, interest, collateral, not financial conditions, personal ones. There was a pause. What do you mean I want a public apology from you, Mom, Dad, and Tyler? Posted on social media acknowledging that you deliberately excluded me from your wedding and explaining why you did it. Scarlett, I don't understand. There was a booking error, Madison. My voice was ice cold. I heard you. All of you. That night, 3 weeks before your wedding, when you were in Dad's study planning how to exclude me and discussing how attention-seeking and burdensome I am. The silence stretched for nearly 30 seconds. You heard us, every word, every lie about how I supposedly tried to upstage your graduation, how I was inappropriately possessive of your relationship with Derek, how I was jealous of your success. All of it. Her breathing was shaky now. Scarlett, please let me explain. Here's what's going to happen. You have 24 hours to post a full, honest apology on your social media accounts explaining exactly what you did and why. Mom, Dad, and Tyler will do the same. You will acknowledge that you deliberately excluded me, that you lied about the booking error, and that your actions were cruel and unjustified. I can't do that. It would be humiliating, more humiliating than bankruptcy, more humiliating than losing your condo, more humiliating than Mom and Dad losing their house because they co-signed your loans. She was crying now. Please don't do this to us. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm offering you a choice. Accountability in exchange for financial help. The same way you offered me exclusion in exchange for your perfect wedding day. What if I refuse? Then you handle your crisis alone. No money from me, no advice, no support. And Scarlett, the family problem solver, disappears forever. I ended the call and waited. Within an hour, Tyler called. What the hell is wrong with you? Madison told me about your insane demands. You can't seriously expect us to humiliate ourselves publicly because of some misunderstanding about wedding planning. It wasn't a misunderstanding, Tyler. You were there. You participated in the conversation about how jealous and attention-seeking I was. That's not, we didn't mean. You meant every word. The question is whether you're willing to own those words now that you need something from me. This is blackmail. No, this is consequence. Blackmail would be threatening to expose you without offering anything in return. I'm offering to save your college education, Madison's financial future, and Mom and Dad's retirement. All you have to do is tell the truth about what you did. He hung up on me. Dad called 2 hours later. Scarlett, sweetheart, I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding. Stop. Just stop with the lies, Dad. I know exactly what happened. The only question is what happens next. You're asking us to destroy our reputations over a family disagreement. I'm asking you to take responsibility for your actions. Something you should have taught me to do but apparently forgot to model yourself. This isn't the daughter I raised. You're right. The daughter you raised would have accepted your betrayal, swallowed her pain, and continued prioritizing everyone else's needs over her own dignity. Congratulations, you successfully killed that version of me. The deadline came and went. No apologies appeared on social media, so I made my own post. A year ago, my family deliberately excluded me from my sister's wedding in Hawaii, then lied about it being a booking error. Today, they're asking for my financial help to clean up the mess their choices created. I've learned that blood doesn't automatically earn respect, trust, or unconditional support. Sometimes the family you choose is more valuable than the family you're born into. Here's to building a life surrounded by people who actually value your presence. The post got over 300 likes and dozens of supportive comments within hours. Several people shared their own stories of family betrayal and recovery. The response was overwhelmingly positive and empowering. Madison called hysterical. "How could you do this to us? Everyone we know has seen your post." Mom is mortified. Dad is furious. "You've ruined our family's reputation over something that happened a year ago." If the truth ruins your reputation, maybe the problem isn't my honesty, it's your actions. "We're sorry, okay, we're all sorry. We made a mistake. Please delete the post and help us." Sorry isn't good enough anymore. You had your chance to apologize publicly and chose your pride over accountability. Now you live with the consequences. Fine, we don't need your money. We'll figure it out ourselves. Good luck with that. 6 months later, Madison filed for bankruptcy and moved back in with my parents. Tyler transferred to a state school and took out student loans. Mom and Dad downsized to a smaller house and postponed retirement indefinitely. I got promoted to VP and bought a vacation home in Costa Rica. You know what's funny about family karma? It doesn't always come quickly, but when it arrives, it's perfectly calibrated. My family taught me that loyalty is conditional, that love has limits, and that blood doesn't guarantee respect. Those were painful lessons, but they were also liberating ones. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose between family expectations and self-respect? How did you handle betrayal from people you trusted most? Drop your stories in the comments because you're not alone in this struggle. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life drama and lessons about boundaries, self-worth, and the kind of justice that only comes from living well. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they deserve better than crumbs of affection from people who should love them unconditionally. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to play by rules that were never designed to protect you. Until next time, choose yourself first because nobody else will do it for you. Peace.